You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
A school bus yesterday morning. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage. It's free all throughout the day. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. You see him host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let's do this. It is Friday, August 16, 2024. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show. I'm coming to you from beautiful Orange Beach, Alabama this morning, down here for a couple of days before football season gets kicked off next week. And next Friday night, a week from tonight, I have my 1 hour 2024 debut of Football Friday, 1 hour high school football show with a little bit of college football built in as well. That's next Friday night at 10:30. So this is the final Friday night without high school football. So we are excited that football season's right around the corner, and Alabama plays 15 days from today, and makes me think of my good friend Tommy Wilcox, number 15 for the Alabama Crimson Tide from 79 through 82, and wow, it's just about here. Anyway, as I said, I'm down here in Orange Beach, but I got my main man Chase Brumfeld back there at our studios in the control room at Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Taking all your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904. If you want to get involved in the program, you can give us a call. I'll let you know who we have on our guest list in just a moment, but first, I need to let you know this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit, it's just a better way of banking. Alabama Credit Union loans for real life. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. See if you're eligible for membership to join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, Chase, good morning. You had a few days off this week, so you're back here on this Friday. Ready to hold down the fort while I'm down here in Orange Beach. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be back in T-Town. You sound great over the phone. Hopefully you're doing well. I'm ready for today's guest and get it rock and rolling.
Yeah, we're ready to get going. Our guest list today at 9:30, the head football coach and interim athletics director for the University of West Alabama in Livingston, Brett Gilliland, will join us. I know Cowboy, one of our listeners, has been wanting me to get Brett on, and got Coach lined up for today for a visit on the Tigers as they get ready for the Gulf South Conference this year. And NCAA Division II football is something that I want to ask him about, not just UWA, but big picture. How is Division II being impacted by the portal and NIL, particularly since he is the acting AD as well. So we'll have Coach Gilliland with us at 9:30. At 10 o'clock, it's Larry the Music Man out of Atlanta. And Larry Butler is going to join us to talk a little bit about the history of Southern music. We've been doing it now for a couple of weeks. It's gotten great response. But, everything from the Allman Brothers to Skinner to Marshall Tucker Band to Atlanta Rhythm Section goes on and on and on. Of course, the Shoals, Macon, Atlanta. We'll probably at some point get into some Mississippi blues and the Delta. All of those topics. Larry the Music Man is going to be joining us at 10 o'clock. Then at 10:30, it's the Auburn Report with Brett Pritchard from the Auburn Blitz. So we got a good show on tap for you today. And as I said, you're more than welcome to call in on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, 205-342-9904. Even though I'm down here at Orange Beach, I am still tracking Alabama football, and the Crimson Tide practicing this morning and practiced yesterday with no media availability either one of those days. But tomorrow is a scrimmage, and then Coach DeBoer will meet with the media in the Bryant-Denny Stadium media room on Saturday following that scrimmage. No practice then on Sunday or Monday, and they crank back up with practice on Tuesday after a couple of days off on Sunday and Monday. So Alabama football in full swing now. And if you've been around campus, students are starting to filter back in. In fact, Chase, since I'm not there, do you know, because I know they were coming in last week, is Rush this week? Is that this week? Do you know?
That is a good question. I heard it was this week. I have a couple of friends who go to that university, and they were telling me so, but let me double check for you.
Okay. Well, somebody out there listening probably knows. I know that I think it is this week. I think the sororities are rushing this week at the University of Alabama, but that's always, and I say this week. I guess I'm actually talking about next week. Again, I don't know. If somebody out there is listening knows exactly what the rush schedule is, let us know. I'd be curious because I know midday is usually on a Sunday. I don't know if it's this Sunday or it is next Sunday, but we will try to find out. All right. In terms of some sports notes, now that the Olympics are over and we're waiting for college football and NFL football, we are in, I wouldn't call it a lull, but sort of. Now it's like we're kind of on hold until football cranks up. You know what I mean? It's just that's just kind of the way that it is. We got a big golf tournament, St. Jude, FedEx St. Jude Classic going on in Memphis, the first FedEx playoff event, and it's hot in Memphis just like it is here in Orange Beach or Tuscaloosa or anywhere in the Southeast. And that's a big event. Obviously, NASCAR, we know how that's heated up. But as far as where we're at, we're mid-August now. So it's everybody, summer's been great, and it's going to be hot for a couple more months. We know that. But the feeling kind of is it's time for football. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm rambling around just to say it's time for football. And right now, we enjoy, I enjoy the golf tournaments. I enjoy the NASCAR races. I enjoy all of that. But I'm ready for some football. And this is that last little lull where it's just, you're ready for it to be here. You're ready to quit talking about what it's going to be like, what this team is going to have, what that team is going to have, what this is going to look like or that's going to look like, talking about everybody's schedule. You're ready to play some games. And that's, until now it kicks off, and it will kick off for high school this coming Thursday. My first Football Friday is a week from tonight, but actually we'll have high school football beginning next Thursday night. And then obviously Friday, week 0. And then college football will have, a week 0 game or 2. But the Alabama and the SEC is just 15 days away. So it's football time in Alabama, and we are ready for it. Otherwise, I know if you're a Major League Baseball fan, you got plenty of baseball to keep you going. But like I said, it's time for football. All right, it's 11 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. We're off and running. University of West Alabama head football coach and interim athletics director Brett Gilliland joining us at 9:30. In the next segment, we are wide open for phone calls at 205-342-9904. That's the number of the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, and we would absolutely love to hear from you. So feel free to give us a call so we can get you on. Before we hit the break, I want to talk to you about some interesting stuff that the YMCA of Tuscaloosa has going on. No joining fee right now through or until September 30th. So the rest of August until and through September 30th, no joining fee. So if you've been considering becoming a member at the YMCA, now would be the time to do it for the next 6 weeks or so, because you don't have to pay a joining fee. Also, and I'm a big proponent of personal training. If you hit the wall or you need to get over the hump, personal training can help you. 10% off all new personal training packages through September the 30th.
Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart. Claim based on sequence 9 test under high-load conditions versus API-SP test limits.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special.
His clients. Remember M for money and Mesrano.
If it has a logo on it, call me. 205-800-8000.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sky partially sunny today. The chance of scattered showers and strong thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 93, tonight's low 74. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds with scattered showers and strong storms. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
(9:15). Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. Remember to download the Tide 109 app. That's a great way to have us with you and be able to listen anywhere, anytime. And, of course, we're streaming at Tide109.com. All right, we're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Pinnacle Park, beautiful gated townhome community near gorgeous Lake Tuscaloosa. Find out more at PinnacleParkNR.com. This is a high-quality place to live, PinnacleParkNR.com. Philip's going to lead us off this morning. Hey, Philip, good morning.
Gary, you gotta post some pictures on X of the surf for us, man.
I'll do it, buddy. I'll do it. I gotta get through this radio show, but then I'll be all about the surf and sand after that, my friend.
Hey, Gary, I appreciate it. Hey, I was going to tell you, you know, your high school football show that you do on Friday nights, that gets me in the mood for football for the following day about as good as anything can, because it's just a good, you know, it's good to catch up on all the scores. And you guys are enthusiastic about it. It puts you in a good mood. And then at that point, you're ready for Saturday. And I'm glad you're still doing that, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for saying that, Philip. I've been doing high school football. My first season to cover high school football was 1982. So it's something that and you know, a lot's changed, as you know, since 1982. But I know I've talked about it here on the show, but one thing about a Friday night in Alabama, whether it's 1982 or 2024, it still feels the same, man. You know, when you get to one of these high school football stadiums, and it's just something special about it. It's what we're all about. And I'm excited, you know, this going to be ready to roll next week. That's for sure.
I know one of you guys last year posted a photo of a little small stadium that he was attending a game at. I saved the picture for a while because it was such a beautiful shot, a slice of Americana. And I remember the stadium that he was in to save my life. I wish I had that. I'm sure if I went back and looked, I could find it. But it was just a beautiful picture of the stands and just a simple little stadium out in the rural area of Alabama. And, you know, it was a beautiful shot. But those Friday night games are great, and then the show you do on Fridays, where you give away the gifts, that is a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to start that back the Friday before the Western Kentucky game. Our T-Town Gallery, T-Town Menswear, T-Town Gallery giveaway. We're going to start that back, and we're going to be giving away the beautiful prints. We're going to give away autographed footballs. I mean, it's Tom's going to be laying the gifts out on us. We'll be doing the Bama trivia. So, yeah, we'll start that 2 weeks from today. So everybody get ready, and we'll do it all through the football season, man.
Oh, yeah, it's a blast. It's a blast, and really appreciate it. But, yeah, it's going to be a great year, and, you know, I kind of wish I stick to my predictions. I don't change them. But the one team that I kind of wish I had thought about a little bit more carefully, and Wim Beck talked about it today, is Oklahoma. I predicted Oklahoma going 6-6. But you're hearing a lot of talk about them being a pretty darn good team this year. Now, Digger feels like they're going to struggle a little bit, but I'm beginning to think that I missed on that one.
Well, you you don't know until they play the games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got a pretty good instinct and a pretty good feel for it. More so than most people. So we'll see what happens.
We sure will, Gary. But looking forward to it, man, and have a good time down there because this will be the last little break you get for a while.
Yeah, this is the last respite. Thank you, Philip.
See you, man.
All right, buddy. 9:20 here on the Gary Harris Show, and I'm right here on the Gulf, and I'm looking out. There's a few clouds this morning. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not like it's overcast, but there's just some spotty clouds, and I think there's a chance each day that I'm down here for one of those little afternoon thunder boomers that they get. In fact, they got one yesterday. I got here last night around 6:30, something like that. Yeah, I think it's about 6:30. And they had one because, boy, the puddles were all over the sides of the roads. That's part of it when you come down to the beach this time of the year. In fact, they're usually welcome if you get out and you're in the sun all day. You know, sometime right around 6 o'clock or so, 5 o'clock when shower comes, it does not hurt your feelings. All right, let's jump back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and Tom is ready to go this morning. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Gary. I hope you're enjoying your break on the beach.
Well, I certainly am. It's nice to be here and be able to relax a little bit and still get to do my show too. So, you know, that's the best of both worlds, Tom. You know what I mean?
Not bad. That's not bad. Good deal. I was thinking about, was Philip talking about Derek Thomas earlier? Something to say about Derek Thomas. About
the former Alabama great linebacker, Derek Thomas?
Yes. I mean, Derek Thomas is, do you know? My God.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't remember Philip talking about him.
I asked, did he?
Oh, no, he didn't.
Okay, good. Well, I thought I heard him say something about that he wished he had a picture of, or he had seen a picture of, and I thought.
Yeah, he was talking about my high school football show on Friday night, Football Friday, and when I send my crews out, I try to get them to snap pictures from the different venues that they're at, the different high school stadiums.
Right.
And he was just talking about last year there was one picture in particular at one of the rural high schools. You didn't remember which one that one of my crew had taken and put on social media. He just thought it kind of captured Americana with the small stadium and I guess the sun going down and people. He just thought it was one of those special pictures that you get, when you're talking about high school football in the state of Alabama, particularly. And you and I've talked about this, Tom. Well, heck, you live in Aliceville. You know what I'm talking about. Whether it's Aliceville or Reform or Gordo or these little communities. When it's Friday night, high school football, man, everything kind of shuts down. Everybody's at the stadium. So we were just talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I thought I'd heard something, and it called to mind a story about Derek Thomas, and but I won't tell it. Never mind.
No, tell it. I mean, anytime I'm always up for a good Derek Thomas story. It's one of the best.
I don't know
that's ever come through here.
As football approaches, the wind's blowing, a little breeze this morning, and fresh cut grass and all like that. You start thinking football. You know what I mean? Just scent of football.
Mm-hmm. You sure do.
And then lo and behold, if you get up early in the mornings like I do, you got a little coolness to the air, and it makes you think about football. And you've mentioned it several times in the last couple of weeks, especially last weekend. We had a little cool snap, and it felt good. But anyway, the story is that some friends of mine were at the stadium, and we were playing Penn State. And I wanted you to verify if my recollection of what they told me is correct. But they said they were down near the sideline. They said they could, when we went to the game, we looked for Derek Thomas. God knows we loved him. And
so this would have been, I'm assuming this would have been the 88 game at Legion Field where he had such a big game against Tony Sacca.
That is it. And they said that what happened, they swear, and we were talking about it not too long ago, and they said, when the national anthem finished, the flyover took place, and it was a missing man. They said we were trying to remember, was it near Veterans Day or something like that? But anyway, his dad was a pilot that was missing in action.
A fighter pilot in Vietnam. Yeah, absolutely.
And he was MIA.
Robert Thomas, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Derek never wanted to admit that he was dead. He held on hope. Let me put it that way. And that eventually he would turn up. But anyway, they said this flyover took place, and they believed that it was a missing man formation, and said he was looking up at it and said the minute that ended, you could see it in his eyes. He was fixing to take over and kill somebody. And
well, I tell you this, he was highly motivated when he got to Kansas City. He had a lot of stuff that he did with veterans and the flyovers. Yes, he got extra motivation from that. And you're right, Robert Thomas, his dad, was a fighter pilot who did not come back, and Derek always had a close association until he passed away with the military and with pilots and people that served. Yeah, that was a big part of who he was, and the military, of course, loved him for it because he was so high profile and he brought so much positive attention to the military. So yeah, I have no doubt. I wasn't at that game in '88 in Birmingham at Legion Field, but I do know that he was unblockable that day. And I know Brent Busberger said it was it was on CBS, said it was one of the better individual performances he had ever witnessed. He was in the Penn State backfield the entire game. And I think, like I said, Tony Sacca, I'm pretty sure, was the quarterback. And Tony Sacca got sacked a lot by Derek Thomas.
Well, I didn't see his face, so I wasn't down there where they were. We caught up later, and they were telling me that. And then I run into him, and we were talking about that game and him and how he went on not too long ago. And they said they swear, they said right after that flyover, said you could see it in his face. He was fixing to kill somebody. And
wow.
And said he put that helmet on and said nobody said crap to him the rest of the day.
Well, he was a phenomenal football player, and you give a guy like that some extra motivation. Like you said, you have special performances, and he put one on in that game, that's for sure. So if he was motivated by that flyover, that's a cool story, Tom.
Well, I wasn't involved, and I was told that. And
I have no doubt though that it's probably true. I mean,
I don't believe they would just go out there and randomly make something up. They're not that kind of people. And,
right.
And they, like I said, back then we were young and we worshipped. Well, not worship, but Alabama football players were a big deal to us back then.
Oh, no doubt. It's funny you say that because I have a quick Derek Thomas story too.
Really, when you
because you're right. When you're younger, even for somebody in media, and I see it now from some of the young media corps. But I'm old grizzled veteran now. But when I'd gone over to Meridian, Mississippi to work, Derek was friends with Kermit Kendrick, of course, who's still a good friend of mine. And Kermit Kendrick had played at Meridian High School, and I had just moved there. I hadn't been there long, and it was the summer before that '88 season, and we were in the old Village Fair Mall over there, and there was Derek Thomas in the mall with Kermit and a few of the guys. They were just hanging out, and I said, "Oh man, it was a big deal. It was Derek Thomas." So yeah, it's funny how when you're younger.
Did you work?
And I still enjoy the games, as you know. But when you're 60 years old covering guys that are 21 or 22, it's different than when at the time I was probably 24 years old myself. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit different and a big deal to get to cover those guys.
Gary, did you work with Bob Holland over there at Meridian?
I sure did. I worked with Mr. Holland. Yeah, I absolutely did. And boy, he was great. He was Tom was talking about a legendary weatherman back in the days in Meridian, Mississippi. Bob Holland was Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, I sure did work with Mr. Holland.
Well, he was fantastic. I tell you what, he was the weatherman over here where I live until James Spann come along. And of course, all these cable got cut out. We don't get WTOK anymore on cable over here. But Bob Holland, he was a good one.
He was a good one. All right, Tom, I'm gonna hit the break. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Gary. Have a good trip.
Appreciate you. All right, 9:30. We'll get to the timeout here and come back with Brett.
Can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and out.
You could be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
For more from Tide 100.9,
Let's it fly and there's it. Whoa!
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
All right, 9:32. Welcome back into the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show. That's right. It's Friday, and college football is closing in. High school football, as I already talked about this morning, begins next week, and so it's here. It's just a matter of days now. We're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and we are going to visit with the head football coach at the University of West Alabama in Livingston, also the acting athletics director, our friend Brett Gilliland. Coach, good morning. And am I right here? I was doing a little reading this morning. Is this your 11th season coming up as a head coach?
Good morning. It is.
You got to be kidding me.
Year 10th season, but COVID, we didn't get to play that one. But
that's right. Yeah.
But WA, so it's flown by.
Wow, it really has. And you have put together a terrific record there at UWA, and the Tigers getting ready for another season in Division II, Gulf South Conference. 5-5 last year. Not terrible, but not the standard that you set for the program. What's your outlook for 2024?
Well, last year we started off really sluggish in the win-loss column and had a lot of injuries and some bad spots for us that hurt, but I love the culture of this program and this team, and so what they did is they came back and won 3 of the last 4, including beating the number 5 team in the country here at home for homecoming, and so we ended the year on a really high note, and our guys have picked up right where they left off on that regard. We had a lot of guys here this summer working out with their voluntary workouts with our strength coach. And just a different mindset. It seems like this summer with this team and the work they're willing to put in and their camaraderie with each other. So it really has been a great summer leading into fall camp, which we're at now. We just had our first scrimmage and getting ready for 11 Division II games, 6 of them at home. So we're excited about this season. I think we got to. How the Gulf South Conference schedule is. It's always daunting, but we get to start off with 3 out-of-conference games here at home with Miles coming on August 31st, and then Tusculum and Limestone, both of those out of the SAC conference. So excited to play 3 region games at home before we get going into that GSC schedule.
Yeah, that's a great setup. August 31st at 6 p.m. You're going to kick it off against Miles, and as you said, first of 3 straight home games. One thing interesting about your schedule is you play August 31st, and you go 11 straight weeks. No bye. Just tee it up and play 11 straight weeks.
That's right. And, that's something that Division II is always, if you wanted to have a bye, you've only got to play 10 games. Well, this year they actually changed that. They made August 31st week 0.
0, right.
Through week 11. So we're actually the new rule in place didn't help us any because our bye actually is going to end up coming the last week of the season. But so yeah, we're 11 straight weeks, but that's kind of Division II ball, and I'm glad they made that rule change because moving ahead we'll get to have a bye in there somewhere. That's important.
I go way back with the Gulf South Conference, having gone to school at Jacksonville State and covered West Alabama when I was in Meridian, obviously, and remember all the glory days with Jacksonville State and Troy and North Alabama. And you know, the Gulf South Conference, like all of college football, all of these conferences, whether you're Division I or Division II, have changed, or Division I AA. But the GSC is still the GSC. And you look around at, you still got, you know, Delta State, UWA and Delta State, man. You go all the way back. And you know, Mississippi College and Valdosta State. Of course, West Florida has come in, and they're a phenomenal football program. Give us a little insight into the league. You know, obviously you're planning on UWA being a factor, but give us some of the teams in the league that are going to be really strong.
Sure. Well, you know, you hit the nail on the head. There's some teams that have been in this league a long time and done really well, and then there's been some changes, like you said. You know, as Jacksonville States and the Troys and the North Alabamas and now West Georgia has moved out of the league, and new teams have had to filter in. And you know, last year ending the season, you know, Valdosta State, Delta State, and West Florida were the three teams from this conference that made it into the playoffs, and deservedly so. You know, felt like they all had really good seasons. I know. I think Valdosta State's the only one of those three that has their quarterback, starting quarterback, returning. So, you know, that's always a big deal. So you would have to say that, you know, that would give them an edge to be definitely a team to watch. West Florida always does a good job recruiting down to the beach, and you know, Coach Cooley over at Delta State has either won the conference or shared the conference the last 2 years. So they've got a good thing going. So, you know, those three are always, you know, coming out of last year are obviously three that you got to look at to be near the top. And I think that's how the preseason poll worked out too with those three. I'm not sure the exact order. Unfortunately, I don't even look at preseason polls, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, well, you know, you
somewhere.
You're not worried about anybody else's opinion. You want to go out on the field and
that's right.
Settle it there. That's the way coaches are.
We get to play two of them on the road as our first two conference games. We go to West Florida and then to Valdosta. So we'll get to find out in a hurry.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's the nature of conference play. Brett Gillen, University of West Alabama head football coach, with us, and talking about the upcoming season. And I know I got a lot of people who look forward to your appearance. Biggest fan of small college football that I know is Cowboy out in Dallas, Texas. And he said, when are you going to get Coach Gillen down? So I hope he's listening this morning. But let's talk about what all you got going there at University of West Alabama. First of all, Tiger Stadium. And again, I've had you on before. I talk about this all the time. Love covering Alabama, you know, love covering Auburn, but there's something about Division II football on a Saturday. The whole community, especially in Livingston, turns out. That's a great setting for football. You've done a lot to the stadium there. Talk about the game day experience that you've worked to have there at UWA and some of the improvements to Tiger Stadium.
Well, I think it's a unique place because you can park pretty close, walk up here and watch a really good ball game and a good atmosphere, you know, which is kind of harder to do at some of those bigger places now. But you know, we've had a lot of improvements, and we just got a new one that's we're gonna unveil at our first home game on the 31st. It's really gonna spice up our game day atmosphere. But you know, we got a new jumbotron in the stadium. We got a new Campore Athletic Hospitality Center with two suites. One of them's the President Box, and one of them's a suite that we get to sell per game. And so just a lot of new seating. I mean, everything looks different. It feels different, but it's still the same cozy little atmosphere and cool little game day experience. But we are excited. We got 3 night games to start off the season, and you know, there may be some flashiness that goes along with that with some new lighting that we got. So we're excited about that, and excited to bring even a better atmosphere to Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, sounds like it's gonna be terrific. All right, you're the acting AD. Let's get into some of how you're dealing with it at the Division II level, with all of the changes that are happening with portal and NIL. How is that impacting you, if at all, at UWA?
Well, some of it's still a moving target because it changes so much. But, you know, there definitely is an impact, and each sport is a little different in how the impact has hit them. But, you know, the NIL world hasn't really filtered down to us in the way that it's being done in Division I. We are fortunate that we have some businesses and corporations that like, UWA and like to help out our student athletes and use them for some marketing. And so to kind of use the NIL world the way it was originally intended,
right?
Yeah. That some, but with the transfer portal and everything and all the new rules that the NCAA has made over the last 3 to 5 years, some of them have not been super D2 friendly, especially in a league like ours where we had a lot of Division I drop down transfers, and some of that has been hurt by some of the new rules. But the biggest thing is just trying to keep up with them because like I said, it's a moving target, and the rules seem to change by the week or definitely by the year. And so, the landscape of college athletics is definitely different, and we just got to continue to grow with it and figure out ways to utilize it to where that our student athletes don't suffer, that our student athletes get the best possible experience that they can get while they're here.
For you, because UWA as well as anybody, you played there. You had been an assistant coach there at one time, and then, of course, you came back in 11 years as the head football coach. And now you've taken on the role of acting AD. You're trying to coach a football team, and now taking that on, you're also overlooking the entire athletic department. How has that been for you to have that extra responsibility? Is that something you're interested in doing on a permanent basis? But how has that been, being the head football coach, but then also having to keep an eye on and help and be there for the other coaches in the other sports? What has that challenge been like for you? And is it something that you might look to do full time?
I do think it's a role that I want to continue in, and it's been good and a little head spinning at times. But I'll tell you, really the hardest time frame is right now because we're in, football's in preseason practice, which is, some people think that just means practice and go home, but as you know, that's an all day and well into the night situation. So I've just had to be really good at utilizing my time when I have some downtime. In the past, I may have sat at my desk and caught my breath for a little bit, but now I'm going to the other office and taking care of some things, athletic department wide, and it's obviously changed the meeting schedules that I have been in, across campus, but it's a good thing, because I love this I love this place, I love the athletic department, I love this university, and so I really, I want to make sure that everything we do athletic-wise is to help this university, help our student athletes get supported, but also just help us within the community and being the best we can be for this university, because I think athletics is the front porch of every university, and we want to get people in here to see what a cool situation we have and a cool community we have. So I'm honored to be in those meetings and get to just be one step closer to the decision-making process university-wide for different things. So I do think it's something that I want to continue in, and it has created some time management issues at times, but all that when I first stepped into the head coaching role, there was a lot of learning and fly by the seat of your pants at times and do the best you can and learn from it, and so that's been the same these last couple of months as I stepped into this role.
I like the way that you phrase that because you do love that school. That's your school. And it just sounds like that when the opportunity arose and they needed someone that you didn't shy away from it, you jumped at it as much for your love of the university, but also I think, and you kind of described this a little bit, but I'm going to follow up, when it comes to the changing landscape of college athletics, it just sounds like you said, who better than me? Who knows this athletic department better than me? Who knows this school better than me? And as the head football coach, I've got an opportunity now to impact the entire athletic department. And it just sounds like it was something that you were needed and you jumped at it. There would have been a lot of coaches, and I don't mean this negatively. They would have just said, hey man, I got a football program to run. I'm coaching football. I don't have time for this, all of it. But you took it on, and you seem to have taken it on with the attitude, and as you said, something that you might want to continue to do. I'm giving you applause because not every football coach would have done that.
Well, I appreciate it, and I agree with you. And I couldn't have done it without the football staff we have assembled here. We have some really, really good coaches and seasoned veteran coaches here, so they're able to. If there's anything they need to pick up while I'm away and doing something else, they're more than capable and able to do that. So, I have to give my hat off to them because it wouldn't have been possible without them, and they're an important role with it.
All right. Earlier, you talked about your team, and we talked about the 3 teams that made it to the D2 playoffs last year. You sound like you're confident you've got a good team. I'm assuming that you feel like if your team plays well, that you've got an opportunity to be one of those teams back in the D2 playoffs this year. Am I correct?
I do. I think we got a team that is deeper in areas than we've been, in a while, but we've got a team more importantly that just they kind of get it, and you get into 7-8 days worth of fall camp, and you have learned a lot about your team, and I like where this team is with their relationships with one another. They want to make each other great. They want to push each other. They want to hold each other accountable, and they're all doing it for the right reasons. So I think the development of trust within this team is growing, and I think that's a key development to a successful team. So I think we have the pieces in place. It's like I told them, champions are made. They're not born, they're made. And, we have the ingredients in the room to be champions, I think. But I also have the ingredients in my house to make a cake. But unless I go in there and put them all together right and do it the right way, I'm not going to make one. So, that's what this time of year is all about. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I definitely think the ingredients are here.
You said something earlier, Coach Brett Gillen with us from the University of West Alabama, about, D2, traditionally was a place where a lot of times when players at the D1 level weren't getting opportunities, they would look to go D2. You said that's been impacted negatively by the portal. I'm assuming there just aren't as many players available or looking to go to D2 anymore because they get in the portal and they get recruited by other D1 schools. Am I reading that right?
Well, that's part of it. The other part of it, used to before, I think it's probably 5 years ago or so, I can't remember exact year, but used to, if you were going to drop down a level and transfer from a D1 down to a D2, you could play immediately. And if you went laterally, you had to sit out a year.
That's right.
For graduate. Yeah. And so when that rule changed, it kind of opened up things, on that level that just made the amount of transfers down. It just made it less overall because, a lot of those players are good players that we were all getting in our conference. And now they were able to go find another Division I institution that, they felt like suited them better. So that was that's kind of the biggest thing that has hurt us more than anything.
That's right. You don't have to sit out anymore. So you're absolutely correct. In the past, you could go D2 and play right away. In D1, you had to sit out a year, and now you don't. So there's not as much incentive to drop down to D2. With that being said, recruiting-wise, I guess it doesn't change. I guess you're still looking for as good a football player as you can find, understanding that, going up against some of the D1 schools, there's some guys that maybe you recruit, and as soon as they have some success, you might not be able to recruit anymore. How has the high school recruiting changed for you, if at all, in the 11 years you've been at UWA?
No, it has changed with the portal because, I feel like a lot of Division I's have been filling their, going into the transfer portal more than they have been dealing with high school recruits. So, a lot of Division I's have lowered their numbers of high school recruits, and so that has changed. We have been able to, pick up some guys that we feel like in the past we'd have had a harder time being in the pecking order to get them because they were still available there late in the process. That we feel like they wouldn't have been in years past. So, I do think it's helped us be able to get a more quality high school or have a bigger pool to choose from with quality high school seniors. So, I still think the transfer portal has hurt that a little bit with recruiting because now everybody's got their eyes all over the place instead of just, when those seniors are coming out of high school, all eyes on them. Every university kind of has their eyes all over the place now. So it's impacted them for sure. But I feel like we've been able to get a pretty good crop of high school seniors to sign with us.
Well, I know this much, having covered that program for a few years, that community, the people there in Sumter County and in Livingston love that school. and all the changes that are happening in collegiate athletics, when you've got the kind of grassroots support that you have at the University of West Alabama from the people that are alums and live in that area and follow that school, I think the best is yet to come. And I think with you heading it up, UWA has a bright future, and I appreciate you coming on, and good luck this season, Coach.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and appreciate you having me. It's always fun to come on with you, and hope people take the little ride up to Livingston, Alabama, and check out some games in Livingston this year. It'll be a fun time.
Yeah, and real quickly on that, can you get tickets online? I mean, I know you can still buy game day tickets, but if anybody wants to get involved and support the program, how can they do that?
Go to UWAathletics.com. And you can see everything there. You can follow us on any social medias. Our UWA Athletics and each of our teams have social media pages, and schedules are all there. Ticket information's all there, and worst case scenario, show up to the gate and buy you a ticket and come watch it and come in for a cool experience.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, Coach Brett Gillen, University of West Alabama, head football coach and acting director of athletics. It's 9:52 here on the Gary Harris Show, and it's the weekend, and if you're looking to play a round of golf, Tall Pines in Tuscaloosa is a great place to check out. Brand new greens. They've got putting greens, a driving range, everything that you need to get ready to play your round of golf, and they are open to the public. And also, they have memberships available, too, if you want to join, or they have a pool membership. They have a clubhouse. They have a lot of great things over there in East Tuscaloosa in the Woodland Forest neighborhood. Tall Pines Golf Club. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232. That's 205-556-1232. Tall Pines, a hidden gem in Tuscaloosa. We'll be back to wrap up the first hour of the Gary Harris Show right after this.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Monday. We'll look back at the Alabama football scrimmage. We'll find out where the position battles are. Also in the second hour, we'll talk with Doug Bell. We'll look at the FedEx Cup standings and find out who's advancing on to the next round. Plus, take your phone calls throughout the show.
Inside the Locker Room, weekdays 7 to 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Perry.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans.
Even when the power is out, you can too with Spire rebates up to $600 when you switch to natural gas. Learn more at spireenergy.com/reliable.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of scattered showers and strong thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 93. Tonight's low 74. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds with scattered showers and strong storms. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:56, winding up this first hour. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union, member-owned and not-for-profit. It's just a better way of banking. Just got a text message from my friend Gavin Deacle from Deacle Farms here in nearby Grand Bay. And, boy, I tell you what, those sugar baby watermelons, Gavin, you may have to figure out a way to get me a couple while I'm down here. Love those sugar babies. And, man, they are so good. I've been eating so much watermelon lately, but I'm not done yet. So, anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the first hour. And we've got hour number 2 coming up. We're going to get started with Larry the Music Man. Also, Brett Pritchard will be joining us for the Auburn Report at 10:30. More of your phone calls. The TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show rolls on. I'm in Orange Beach, Alabama, but I'm talking to you wherever you may be. And got another hour of great sports talk on the way.
Or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511 today. All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Dan Beyer.
LA Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh told reporters that Colin Kaepernick will not be coaching or playing for the team this season. Harbaugh did reveal that he's spoken to Kaepernick multiple times about being an assistant coach, including in previous seasons when Harbaugh was at Michigan. One other Chargers note to pass along, The Athletic reports that Justin Herbert is out of a walking boot as he tries to return from his foot injury. Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson will make his debut for his new team on Saturday night against the Buffalo Bills. Following their gold medal in Paris at the Olympics, the U.S. women's national team regained the top spot in FIFA's women's soccer world rankings. Cubs Hall of Famer second baseman Ryne Sandberg announced yesterday that he is cancer-free. While in golf, second-round play is underway at the FedEx St. Jude Classic, the first phase of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Denny McCarthy has the lead at 8 under par, but he's joined atop the leaderboard by Sam Burns. Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele start the day at 4 under par.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
A heat advisory is in effect for all of West Alabama through 9 tonight. Heated seas could rise up to 108 degrees. There are also marginal 1 in 5 risks for strong to severe thunderstorms this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon across West Alabama. Counselors are being provided today for students at Crestmont Elementary, College, Riverside, and Eccles Middle, and Tuscaloosa County High. Many witnessed that homicide investigation on 17th Street in Northport while waiting on a school bus. Hoover resident Carrie Schrader won $400,000 on ABC's Press Your Luck game show.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show, the TGIF edition. I'm coming to you from beautiful Orange Beach, Alabama. Chase Brumfeld is right there in our Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC studios in Tuscaloosa. And you know where you are. Right now, we are going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Larry the Music Man, Larry Butler, for our Southern Music, History of Southern Music segment, and I have no idea where we're going this morning. I hadn't talked to Larry this week. I've had so much going on. But, Larry, good morning.
Good morning, Gary. Glad you're getting a little R&R.
And I'm down here, too, where there's a great music scene. Of course, down at Floribama, always great music, hang out. And, of course, the Mobile, we got, Wet Willie, and Mobile's got a great music scene with local music, with jazz and blues and everything else. So I'm in a good little music area too. But where are we going this morning? What you got? What you got on the agenda?
The landscape is so large in Southern Rock and the southeastern scene: Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi. First of all, I want to take a minute to remember the king of rock and roll today, who lost Elvis Presley.
Sure did. 1977, right?
Yes, sir. I'm a huge Presley collector and fan. I got to see him live at the Macon Coliseum with my then guitar player in 1976. Never forget that. Anyway, I just wanted to plug him.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because, as I said, my mom was a huge fan, and she passed away back June 5th, and her birthday's coming up August 20th, and I'll never forget it. We were living at Hollis Crossroads there in Cleveland County, Alabama. And I remember I was out in the yard, and I can't remember, I was 13 years old. And I do remember my mother and dad pulling in to the driveway and mother getting out crying because she had heard on the radio that Elvis had passed away. And she told me, Gary, Elvis has passed. And I just, she was just so upset about it. So you and I and many millions of others will. But I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't realize. You're right. August 16th, 1977, the king of rock and roll passed away. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Larry.
I'd been mowing the grass that morning, and back then, I still do to this day. I have 3 radios that play all the time, but I had the radio on, and I walked in to get something to drink. It was very hot, and I heard it on the radio. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The local DJ at the time, was announcing it. But if it hadn't been for Dewey Phillips, probably Elvis would have never, Sam Phillips took that tape to Dewey Phillips to play on his radio station, and That's All Right, Mama, and that's pretty much where it got started. And they didn't have it on a record yet. He said, listen to this. And the switchboard blowed up. Anyway, that
nobody had ever heard anything like it. I mean, that's
never. They still couldn't. I mean, to this day, I get chills when I hear That's All Right, Mama. But I want to go real quick to Tom's conversation last week. Was very interesting, and I like his input, and I encourage everybody to call and give stories and not just let me talk all the time, but I want to hear other people's input. But you were talking about the Rita Coolidge incident. Jim Gordon was the drummer that hit Rita in the elevator going to the show, Jim was a renowned session drummer, what they call the Wrecking Crew on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. Jim Gordon played on every song that was a hit. There was 25 session musicians in that group, including Glenn Campbell and Leon Russell. Jim had played on most of the Grassroots albums. He played on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass double album. He played Layla. He played with Clapton. He was the original drummer with the Derek and the Dominoes. And I'm going to stop there. We're not going into Layla. That's another story. But Tom was spot on. And there's a book out called Drums and Demons, The Tragic Journey of Jim Gordon, a rock opera. He had mental issues on one side of his brain, and on the other side of his brain, he was a genius. Anyway, I wanted to give Tom that little bit of input. Jim Gordon was a fantastic session drummer, as well as playing with Eric Clapton on Layla. But
well, you mentioned the West Coast, and Ken, and we hop around a little bit on this segment, but my own, because as we've obviously discussed, I love music too. I'll tell you a funny story, Larry, and you can comment on this from my time again. Living different places, but in the TV business, again, I mentioned my time in Meridian, Mississippi, which that little town has an unbelievable local music scene, man. I'm telling you, and one of these days we'll even get into the Delta Blues. But let me tell you this: when I moved to Meridian, Mississippi, and I didn't know at the time who he was, but his dad had worked at WTOK, the TV station there, for many years, and I met a guy named Chris Etheridge who was playing some local music. Well, it turns out Chris Etheridge had been the bass player for the Flying Burrito Brothers, and then toured with Willie Nelson and
Chris Etheridge. Oh my Lord! Tell me the story. I want to hear this.
Well, it was just we were out, and I'm trying to remember the name of the little bar. It was a guy I hadn't lived there in so long, but it was right there on 8th Street, downtown Meridian, or right through the main heart of Meridian, and a real famous hangout there. But anyway, I didn't know. I was new to Meridian, and they had a band up there playing, and after they took a break, and my buddy that had lived there longer than me said, "Here, I want to introduce you to Chris Etheridge." And he used to be the bass player for Flying Burrito Brothers and toured with Willie Nelson. And I said, "No kidding." And just the nicest, down-to-earth guy, man. Just unbelievable. But he started telling, stories about Graham Parsons, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, I've hit the jackpot here. But it just goes to show you, like you talked about, music in the South, you never know where you're at, who you're talking to. If you're in a little music haunt or a bar, you might be talking to somebody that might be up there playing music that's played. A lot of times people get off the road for different reasons. But here I was, 25 years old or whatever, and listen to this guy play, and I had no idea who he was. But got to know him, and the whole time he loved the TV station there, and was a heck of a guy. And he had battled, like a lot of musicians, he had battled some substance abuse issues, and had come back to Meridian and just kind of settled back in there. Loved to play golf. He played golf every day, but he would tell me stories of being on the road with Willie, and obviously with the Flying Burrito Brothers was something else. And then, but I think also had played some with Bob Seger and some other. But anyway, just a little story to throw in there.
That the Burrito Brothers, and that was legendary Graham Parsons. You know that story. The Birds and
absolutely
the first
genius.
Country rock. Really, I mean, he brought before. But that's another story. But Chris Etheridge's daughter recently did an article about him. Something me and my dad. What people didn't know, there again, he was a background musician. That his name didn't resonate like who he played with, unless you said the Flying Burrito Brothers. Man, he was fantastic.
Yeah,
he had big. He covered a lot of areas with his playing, but that's interesting. We might have to do a segment on that. I'll have to go back and dig up that info. She did quite an article on him, his equipment.
Yeah, it'd be cool. That'd be cool. Well, let's get back on what you're bringing to the table today.
Well, I want to go back to Macon. We left off in H&H, and I will be sending you pics. I went through my gallery. It must be 100 in there, but we'll go to Big House over on Vineville. That's where the Allman Brothers ended up living when they got to Macon. Not right when they got to Macon, but this Linda Oakley and Candy Oakley Linda Oakley was Barry Oakley's wife, the original bass player. He passed a year after Dwayne on a motorcycle. Those are stories we can tell. But they found this house. It was in the paper. They were looking for a big house because the band was 6 pieces with wives and girlfriends. So they found this mansion on Vineville that had been abandoned. A doctor had lived there before. A beautiful house. I mean, that's a big house. So they rented that thing for $175. That's what the rent was. It's
unbelievable.
The check is in the big house in a frame, what they were paying a month. And Greg Allman said he knew he had made it the big time. He was able to afford $175. But anyway, the house, that's where they lived for 2 years and Greg wrote Sweet Melissa on an ironing board cover, Midnight Rider. Rambling Man was written there by Dickie, the start of it. And but the house is a museum today, and I urge everybody that if they can get over to Macon to visit it. It's been restored, and it's all the archived, all the Allman Brothers, that story, all their artifacts, equipment. It's quite a thing. It's almost like Graceland. It's almost like a Deep South Graceland. The love of my life, we go every year to GABA Fest. That'll be at the end of September around Dwayne's passing. But I urge the Macon history, the music history is just unreal there. I urge people to maybe try to get over there and see and visit Macon. Like our buddy George calls him.
Mm-hmm.
So
George sent me some more pictures too. The big mural there at H&H. So he's I'm sure he's listening today.
But so many songs were written there. The band was in and out on the road, and the wives and the girlfriends kept the place livable and a nice place to come home to when they were off the road because they were really working. When Dwayne, Rick Hall sold Dwayne's contract to Atlantic Records, Tom Dowd, so he goes to Jacksonville. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Walden had already talked. Rick Hall put the buzz in Phil Walden's ear. I left out some of that, and I had to go back and refresh my mind. Rick Hall put the buzz of Dwayne in Phil Walden's ear because Phil was up and coming manager, and Capricorn Records was fixing to be big. And so Dwayne's in Jacksonville, and Tom Dowd gets a hold of Dwayne and says, "Hey, you need to call Phil Walden. He's interested in booking you and managing you and recording you." So Dwayne gets in touch with Phil, and Phil says, "Well, come on up here and I'll put you up and we'll get you settled and send it somewhere." And Dwayne said, "Well, it ain't just me, it's my band." He said, "Well, how many's in your band?" He said, 6. with a blanket or two. And Phil says, "Whoa!" He almost fell off his chair. You know, he said, well, "Bring them on." Anyway, that's how all that happened, making them feel for us. That was the best.
Well, there's so much that as we do this segment throughout the months that we get into with Capricorn Records, but because that is just I want to get into Marshall Tucker and all that too. But getting back to Dwayne, Larry, because I mean we lost him so young. Was he kind of a thrill seeker? I mean, of course not. Riding a motorcycle in the early '70s was not. Wasn't just Dwayne Allman. A lot of people did it. And, and I know a lot of them did. But what was his personality outside of music like? Can you give, from people that you've talked to and that knew him?
I have all the books that have been written about him. I'm friends with Willie Perkins, Amanda and I. He loves Amanda. I said, when I leave, I'll let Willie take care of it up there, We see him every year. Dwayne was when he would come home, Willie said he would go to his room at the big house upstairs and read.
Just chill.
Drinking, but he was a recluse. He was an introvert. He was a genius, really. He was a genius, but none of them could ride motorcycles. That was just a passion when they started making money. None of them were good motorcycle riders, and that's what killed Dwayne. He made a bad move on it. Trying to go around a truck at a high rate of speed to go to a birthday party, and he was straight. He had to ride out. Dwayne, the band was on their way. There's a quote in the book, in Willie's book, that says he asked Red Dog, the longtime road manager that I was friends with, along with Mama Louise before he passed. He said, "Have you done anything?" And Red Dog said, "No, have you?" He says, "No, I'm straight." He said, "No more beans. We're on our way. This is a religion we're spreading." And they were spreading religion. Southern rock was a religion. And I don't mean that in a bad way toward religion in its own.
I know what
it was
you're saying,
religion. It was a burning fire. And he said, "We are on our way." He got killed the next day.
Lord of mercy.
He never got any of the money from Fillmore East or Eda Peach. He never saw the big money. Now, they were making money. Looking at their contracts that Willie had in his book and talking to him, they were making $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a gig. That was a lot of money back then.
Absolutely. Yeah. But not the mega money that would come from the album sales and all of that. So,
and Capricorn grew to talking about Marshall Tucker. And I want to go back to something. I'm going to stop right here. Did you do AM radio at all, or was you that kind of gone when you came in?
Well, it was actually when I started my broadcast career in Anniston, Alabama. There was a strong WHMA AM there, but it was mainly talk by that point. Talk radio. So I don't. Okay. I listened. Now listen, WDNG was a popular radio station on the AM dial in Anniston where you could still hear good music. So I remember listening to some music on AM radio, but being born in '64 and growing up in the '70s, I really was a product of FM. FM took off big in the mid '70s. So, and I still appreciate AM radio. We're on AM. In fact, the 1230 AM signal that we're on has increased our visibility as a radio station here. But as far as the musical influence of AM radio, probably missed it just a little bit, Larry.
Okay, here's the story. I'm going to go with this. My manager that managed my band was a disc jockey in Tifton, Georgia on WWGS 1430. Well, this was in the point I'm making. DJs in the 60s and early 70s on AM radio had the power to play what they wanted to.
That's right. I did know that.
They got the demos that we talked about, from the record companies, or an artist could bring a record by and say, "Do you mind playing this?" And if he thought it was good, he'd play it. So I'm going to tell a story about that, the power of it, promotional copies. My manager called me in 1973 and said, "Come by the station, I got something I want you to hear." So he always gave me promotional copies. A lot of my collection of promotional. And he signed it and dated it. And he said, I want you to have this, but I'm going to play it for you. He said, this is fixing to be the next big thing in Southern Rock. Well, it was Marshall Tucker Band. He had such an ear, Gary, and a vision. He said, I'm telling you, they're going to be big, because Allman Brothers were finding their way after Dwayne. Of course, they got Chuck LaBelle and all that, turned out well. But, man, Marshall Tucker was one of Capricorn's biggest artists at that time. And then we move on down further down the line in 1975. He called me and said, I got some stuff for you. Come by the station when you can. This is a funny story. I went in there. He says, I want you to hear this. He put it on, and I said, who is that? What? My ears wasn't grasping it, and I said, who is that? And he said, it's the Bee Gees. I said, no, it's not. I said, that ain't To Love Somebody and the Bee Gees I listen to, He says, it was Jive talking. He said, wow. He said, this is fixing to be the next big thing that you've ever seen. Trust me. And 2 years later, Saturday Night Fever came out, and I'll never forget that. It was the start of the disco interview.
That's amazing how music can tie in together. And you talking about some singers now. Those Gibbs brothers could sing. Hey, we're getting up against the break. Real quickly, to follow up on what you said, and we may just have to, last week we did 2 segments. Now we've gone over, and I'm going to have to hit the break, but we'll next week maybe get back to 2 segments. But the thing about the radio, because I know a lot of people now don't understand radio if they're, if they were born, let's say in the 80s, 90s, whatever, the power of radio. You mentioned it, whether it was AM and later FM, because people now see radio DJs and they're not the same, and you have the internet and everything. But you said something. Back in those days, the reason that musicians and a lot of top country singers have been DJs, the reason musicians flock to the radio stations, like you said, you had to get played on the radio. I mean, you weren't going to get people to come out and hear you play if you weren't played on the radio. So you're right. DJs were powerful people then, weren't they, Larry? I mean, they, if they played your record and it took off, they could make or break you in those days, couldn't they?
And it didn't take but one play. I mean, look at what happened to Elvis and there's a group we talked about from Alabama, the Chaotix, that recorded Double Shot, Queen Medallions. They took it to a radio station there around Troy State. They were going to college at Troy State. And the next thing you know, it's being played all over the state of Alabama and into Georgia. It was a regional hit, Just because of the power, somebody gave it a play,
Good times. Good times. Listen, Larry, what I should have done was hit the break back, and we could come back with another segment. Now I'm up against it, and I got to get back on time. But next week I'll be back in studio. So, don't get me wrong, I'm not apologizing for being at Artie's Beach right now, looking at the Gulf of Mexico. But I'll be back in studio. It'll be a little easier for me to track the show, and we'll do 2 segments if we need to. But and we still will get into the Layla sessions with Derek and the Dominoes and Marshall Tucker. But, yeah, like you said, too, if people want to call in and kick it around, at some point we're going to get to the Delta Blues, and we're going to get to all. It all ties in together. So, Larry, I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it very much. Have a good weekend.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Larry Butler, the music man from over there in Atlanta. All right, it's 10:23. I'm behind on a break. We're going to get to the break.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily
$100. Visit us at 3537 Skyland Boulevard East or check us out online, bmwoftuscaloosa.com. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of scattered showers and strong thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 93. Tonight's low 74. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds with scattered showers and strong storms. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
All right, 10:26. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And Larry the Music Man, I love what we're doing with the music. And we're going to continue to grow that segment. And next week, I'll be back in studio and make sure I hit that break on time. But, we'll continue to dive in with him. We'll take phone calls. When you want to relive the memories from your music days, we can do that as well. All right, we're going to get back on time here, so this is going to be a short segment. We're going to come back with the Auburn Report with Brett Pritchard from the Auburn Blitz. But someone shot me a message while I was doing the interview with Larry and just said, did I know anything in regards to the defensive backs, the secondary at Alabama? What little bit I've seen, we've seen from the practices and listened to the coaches. And I think that the secondary is going to be a work in progress. I believe that the secondary that runs out there on the field against Western Kentucky is going to be vulnerable. I think that TJ Finley, the quarterback for the Bill Toppers, is going to throw for some yards. But I think every week this secondary is going to get better, particularly those young cornerbacks. And I think that the secondary that you're watching in week 1, the secondary that you're watching, say, in week 4 or week 6 or week 8 or week 10 is not going to be the same secondary you're watching early. I think they're going to get better and better. And I think the talent is there. And let me say this, talent versus experience. Well, obviously you want talented, experienced players. That's ideal. But if you told me I had to choose between less talented, experienced players and more talented, inexperienced players, I'd probably take the more talented, inexperienced players and live with their mistakes as they learn. Because you can't, if you don't have the talent, you're limited to how good you can be. If you've got the talent, when you get the experience, if you have the work ethic, all the things that come with it, you got a chance to be special. And I think Alabama's got enough really super talented players in the secondary that they've got a chance to have a really good group of defensive backs by midseason. I do think early on there's going to be some growing pains with that group. But hopefully some of those will be masked. Hopefully that defensive line group is going to get home and harass the quarterback and impact the quarterback. And that'll help the secondary too. But I do think that the Alabama secondary is, I know a lot of people are concerned about it. Obviously, I feel good about that group going forward. All right, it's 10:29. We'll take a timeout. And when we come back, we will visit with Brett Pritchard from the Auburn Blitz and get the latest going on down at Auburn. I know they're really pumped up about these young wide receivers.
If it makes sense for your business.
Go to townsquarelocal.com for a free demo of the Townsquare Business Management Platform. Visit townsquarelocal.com. That's townsquarelocal.com.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, it's 10:32. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. I'm coming to you live from beautiful Orange Beach, Alabama. Chase Brumfeld's back in our studios in Tuscaloosa, and Brett Pritchard now is probably in Alexander City. Am I correct, Brett?
You nailed it on the head.
Getting ready for the Auburn Blitz at noon, and here for our weekly segment to give us a little insight on Auburn. Hey, we're getting down to it now. Most of these schools are going to scrimmage tomorrow, and then they'll start pulling back a little bit and getting ready for the season. Still 1 week left before we get into game week, but we're getting down to it now. What's the latest coming out of Auburn in terms of their preparation and where they're at this point in fall camp?
Yeah, this scrimmage coming up tomorrow will wrap up fall camp. School starts back Monday, so this will be the second scrimmage. Today will be the 12th practice. This morning's going on right now. So Coach Freeze was able to meet with some media this morning and kind of give a few updates on where everybody is right now. I think the main focus right now, Gary, is trying to figure out who the number 2 quarterback is, which is a lot different than what you and I usually talk about this time of year with Auburn. It seems like since you and I have been doing this, we're usually trying to figure out who the starter is going to be. And it seems like we haven't had to have that conversation this year. Thank goodness. Peyton Thorne has been the starter, was the starter, is going to be the starter. And now it's figuring out who the number 2 guy is for you. And, that's just as important. You're only one play away in football from that next guy being out there taking the reps. So he said he tried, his anticipation is to have a number 2 guy named next week. Said he already knows who that guy is. He hasn't told the rest of the quarterback room yet, but kind of has an idea. And ironically, that's what we've talked about a majority of the week on our program, Gary, is who's going to be the number 2 guy. Is it going to be Holden Geriner, who's been there the longest? Is it going to be a redshirt freshman in Hank Brown, or is it going to be a true freshman in Walker White? Nobody really knows. It just seems like Walker White probably is the 3rd guy still because of the true freshman, so it feels like it's a Holden Geriner, Hank Brown battle. Just don't know where that is, and really no tip from anybody. So we'll all anxiously be waiting to see who he announces as that backup next week.
What's your gut telling you?
I went out on a limb this week and said Hank Brown because, and again, this total speculation on my part. Holden Geriner's been there the longest. There was a couple of quotes earlier this week that kind of alluded to that nobody really had separated themselves in that backup role between those 3 guys. And Holden Geriner being there the longest, if he had separated himself at this point, to me, isn't a ringing endorsement for him. We haven't seen a lot of Hank Brown. We saw him at the end of that Maryland game last year, and I thought he looked really, really good, but the game was over at that point. He came in scrub minutes and, saw him a little bit in the spring, but just not a lot of a sample size of Hank Brown. So, but if I were to roll the dice, I would say it'd be Hank Brown if it were me.
All right, we heard it here first. We'll see if you're correct. I got down to Orange Beach yesterday evening. I clicked on the local news out of Mobile, and I'm watching the sports. And what do I see? But the first sports story is the Auburn freshman wide receiving group. And man alive, there's a lot of hype with this group, but deservedly so. I mean, everything that I'm reading and hearing, and the clip I saw last night is that this is a special group in terms of talent. And I assume, Brett, as someone who covers the team, that you're expecting these guys to, impact Auburn football beginning in game 1.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you've been hearing me talk about this for a long time, and, to go opposite of that, Coach Freeze comes out this morning and said yesterday was the best day of camp for the offense the entire time, and specifically named Sam Jackson, Robert Lewis, and Camden Brown. Camden Brown's been down there for 3 years, and Robert,
the veteran guys,
transfers. He didn't mention a single freshman. So it's just the way things go. But no, but the story all week since last Saturday has been these freshmen, and I think probably what he's doing there, and this is just me again speculating, is that so much talk around Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, and Bryce Kane, some of these guys, like Sam Jackson, who I feel like is going to be a big-time contributor to transfer from Cal, and Robert Lewis, the transfer from Georgia State. I think both of those guys are going to, maybe start. I think possibly could start when you see them, when you see the first game of the season. But Camden Brown's had his ups and downs at Auburn. He looks the part. He is a tremendous-looking athlete, but he has struggled the last couple of years finding himself as a part of the offense consistently. And he's had he's had some inconsistencies being able to catch the football. And that's a problem, obviously, when you play that position. So I think you may be just giving some praise to some of those guys that maybe don't get a lot of recognition because this freshman group has performed so well. And Gary, it's going to be hard to keep those 4 guys off the field. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, Cam Coleman, we asked Hank Brown on our show a few weeks ago who he thought would be the starting 3 receivers, and he said Cam Coleman, Robert Lewis, and I can't remember the one. I think he did name Sam Jackson. It's Sam Jackson, Robert Lewis, and Cam Coleman. So you got 1 freshman starting out there, but Malcolm Simmons has been the story since I talked to you last Friday, Gary. I mean, he continues to amaze in practice. His work ethic is unbelievable. He's working at kickoff return with Jarquez Hunter and a couple other guys right now. So they're trying to find ways to get him and Bryce Kane and some of these guys on the field. But I definitely think Perry Thompson will be in that rotation with those starting wide receivers along with Cam Cole.
Wow. It is it's a different situation at wide receiver. What a difference a year can make, that's for sure. Speaking of what a difference a year can make, and you and I have discussed this before, when a new coach comes in, he's got to put a staff together and you assume to some degree as a fan, well, this is the staff that he wanted. He handpicked it. But we see this a lot because you got to come in and you don't have any really time to slowly do things. You got to get a staff together. And oftentimes after the first year, we saw it at Auburn, there is changeover. And there was a lot of changeover. But I heard Hugh Freeze saying on the Talking Season show on the SEC Network about how comfortable he is with this staff. And is everything that you're hearing that backing that up, that this is just a better situation in terms of Hugh Freeze having people that he's comfortable with on his staff this year as opposed to last year?
No, I think you nailed it. And I think, man, you talked about this briefly last week. Very, very happy with DJ Durkin on the defensive side. Made a comment this morning, said he coaches defense like I like to coach offense in terms of, being versatile and mixing things up. And then on the offensive side, his relationship with Derek Nix and Ken Austin, again, I think is tremendous. He also made a comment this morning that, the attitude of the team is just night and day from last year. And that has a lot to do with the continuity of the coaching staff and the players and the buy-in. You take these 4 freshman receivers, for example. These guys are definitely highly competitive, and they want to get out there and they want to showcase their talents, but they also understand that they want to win. And, they can't just go out there and they're not going to be the guy all the time. There's going to be some sharing of the wealth. And, that's tough sometimes when you come from a high school situation where you're the guy and you're the player. Well, now, you got other guys around you just as good, maybe better than you. So it's learning to be a team player and learning how to do that and, put team before me. And I think that's encouraging that, last year he made those choices. He chose those coaches, but it didn't work out. So you can't look in the rearview mirror. You got to look forward. And I think he's very happy where the coaching staff and the team is right now.
All right. I want to ask you, I mentioned that Talking Season show on the SEC Network and with Marty Smith and I can't ever remember the other guy's name, even though I had him on my radio show, the NASCAR guy. Help me out here, Brett.
Yeah. Now you got me. You made me.
Anyway, I know that I put the jinx on you, but anyway, people know who I'm talking about. Does a good job covering college football as well. But those were pre-recorded interviews, but it made a lot of news. And again, I know Hugh Freeze has been at Ole Miss, and I've told you before, I've worked in that state. The Ole Miss Mississippi State rivalry is every bit as intense as Alabama and Auburn. I'll argue that as long as I'm on the planet. But the difference is when there's a back and forth over there,
it usually kind of stays in state. You know, it doesn't make the national news. Ole Miss and Mississippi State don't move the needle nationally the way Alabama and Auburn do. So when Hugh Freeze was asked the question, he didn't just volunteer it, by Marty Smith, hey, you've had as much success as anybody against Nick Saban. You know, what was the key? And he went into it, and then he uttered the line that probably they wish he had uttered. He said, I should have beaten him. I should have beaten him a couple more times. I should have 4 wins against him. And it generated a lot of buzz, particularly the fact now that Nick Saban's not coaching anymore. It's like, yeah, now you can poke the bear. Of course, Alabama fans say, well, you could have lost the 2 that you won. I mean, you know, the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. At the end of the day, your record's your record. Did that get blown out of proportion in your opinion? Is he just responding, or was that a little bit of a dig at Nick Saban in Alabama? How did you see it from the Auburn perspective?
Well, the guy me and you both were trying to remember is Ryan McGee. So
Ryan McGee, thank you.
It popped in my head right when you started talking, and I'm like, why can I not remember this? But anyway, first of all, I think Hugh Freeze and Nick Saban have a pretty good relationship. I mean,
they do.
Both have come out and openly said that, you know, they've spent a lot of time together. And I think Hugh Freeze on more than one occasion has publicly talked about how much of a mentor Nick Saban's been to him and been there through some tough times in his life and really been an encourager. And I think that was a comment that if Nick Saban had been sitting beside him, he would have said. And Nick Saban would, you know, that grin that he gives everybody when somebody says something like that, would have probably come back and said, yeah, but I should have been 4-0 again. You know, something, you know.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think, but when you're on a sit-down interview, you know, both sides of the fence want to fire shots at each other. And I think it was just meant that, hey, look, yeah, I beat him twice. The question was, or the statement is, you've had as much success as anybody against Nick Saban. And he's pretty much saying, yeah, it didn't talk about that. Yeah, the 2 wins were close, and some crazy things had to happen to win those 2 games. But he also had a 4th and 31 play away from beating him again. And, you know, I think he was genuine in that, saying, look, if I'd have done maybe some things a little bit different, I might have had a 4-0 record against him instead of a 2-2 record. So I just think it does get blown out of proportion with fans. I think it was all in fun. It makes for good banter. Again, we're in the talking season right now. In a couple of weeks, nobody will even care about that comment. But right now, because you aren't playing football and you're just anxiously waiting for kickoff, it makes the headlines. So I really think it's no more than that.
Finally, because you and I both, you know, you do a lot of high school, obviously, with the AHSA Radio Network. I've been covering. I've been telling people to this morning, my high school show cranks up next week. I've been covering high school football since 1982, and I had Brett Gillen, the head football coach and the acting AD at University of West Alabama, on the health of college football outside of Alabama and Auburn. Obviously, we know, you know, Alabama, Auburn, and SEC, but we've seen Jacksonville State, Troy, UNA, all the schools that we grew up watching as Division II schools make them move to 1AA and now eventually to number 1, Division 1A. And you see the smaller schools that can't make that move, the UWAs and Miles College and the different schools around the state. What do you think about the health of small college football? Is it are we losing small college football, or do you think that there's still enough support for it in this new age of bigger is better? How do you see the smaller colleges in Alabama being able to find their niche and keep having an audience and people interested in their games?
Well, unfortunately, you know, I'm going to start with the thing we start with all the time is it going to be financially, are these universities and institutions going to be financially able to continue sports and football without the big paychecks from the D1 schools, the Auburns, the Alabamas? You know, I mean, we got Alabama A&M coming to Auburn first. You know, they're going to get a big paycheck. That's probably not going to happen moving forward in the near future. I'm not saying maybe not in the next couple of years, but eventually these games are going to get pushed to the side.
Be gone. Yeah.
And Auburn and Alabama's schedule is going to have 12 teams that are comparable to them on the schedule. And, it's going to be tougher on them, but, that's what people want to see. And so the odd men out are going to be the smaller institutions. And, look, to me, that's as pure as high school football when you look at the game and the love of the sport. Those athletes getting an opportunity to go to college and get an education but play, football, and continue their career. They're not going to go on play professional schools and go on and be very successful. But as college football morphs and transforms as it continues to do, I think you would be a little bit naive to not think that there needs to be some concern for those schools and how they're going to be able to continue to fund a football program that costs. I mean, everything costs more now, Gary. We know that, but where are you going to come up with the funds if you got a budget like, let's just say Jacksonville State, and I'm just throwing them out there hypothetically. I don't know anything about their athletic budget, but they play a couple of teams that pay them $500,000 a year to play that game. Well, they get $1 million. Well, if you're not playing those games anymore, where are you going to make up that $1 million? And how are you going to be able to handle that? So there's a lot of that I think is going to be interesting to watch over the next 3 to 5 years and to see what happens. But I hate it, to be honest with you. I really do, because there's a lot of people out there that get a lot out of those programs. And those kids that get those scholarships, it gives them an opportunity to get an education, whereas they probably wouldn't be able to do that. And, I'd hate to see that go away.
Yeah, I would too. I'm a big proponent of small college football and obviously high school football. And I may ask you next week about the open enrollment, free to choose, whatever you call it, for high school and NIL, which is coming at some point. But we'll cut it off right here. Auburn Blitz coming up today, right?
Yeah, I got an action-packed show today. We'll have Jason Caldwell on with us. I got a couple other guests that will be with us. So the hour will fly by. We don't lack for things to talk about this time of year, Gary.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, buddy. Enjoy the beach.
Thanks, man. I will. All right, 10:51, and we got to get to one more break before we come back and wrap it up. Do want to remind you, lunchtime is right around the corner, and boy, I have had a lot of people come up to me and say, man, glad you turned us on to Innisfree, Meat and 3 at Innisfree. Glad you turned us on to it, because it is unbelievable, and it really is. I love it, man. Bunch of different choices for meats and vegetables. They have a couple of specials each week. The cobbler, which is outstanding, is included as one of your 3 sides if you want to get it. Peach, apple, cherry, blackberry. They have different cobblers each week. It's just a great place to have lunch, very reasonably priced. Try the Meat and 3, the Lucky Lunch Special at Innisfree. All right, we'll be back to wrap up the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show right after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Hey, coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to feature RJ Young from Fox Sports. We're going to feature Brent Beer. We're going to take your phone calls as we get you ready for scrimmage number 2. It's a free-for-all Friday sponsored by Brian Harden Construction right here, starting at 2 p.m. on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest-running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa at Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events, rehearsal.
Or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of scattered showers and strong thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 93. Tonight's low 74. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds with scattered showers and strong storms. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Find Tide on Twitter at Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
right, 10:55. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. We are wrapping it up for another week. And as I said, I'm in Orange Beach, Alabama. I'll be here until Monday, and I will be doing my show again Monday morning from here, and then heading back to Tuscaloosa and be back in Tuscaloosa on Monday afternoon. And I'll be back on the air at WVUA 23 Monday night at 10. And with the sports, and then right back into the full swing ahead with football coming up next week, Thursday night, Friday night, high school football, and then a week away from college football. So it's all going to be cranking up, and I'm going to enjoy this little respite here at the beach this weekend, but looking forward to getting back into T-Town next week. All right, before we close it out, Chase, you holding down the fort for I guess you get off at you got one more show to do, or are you done after my show?
I got one more show to do with the great Wyatt Fulton.
That's right. T-Town Sports Daily coming up right here at 11 a.m. with Wyatt and Chase, and then it's the Miller's Edge from noon until 2, and then Fowler, like me. Fowler's been down here all week. Fowler's down here at the beach. He's out on Fort Morgan Road. He'll be joining you at 2 o'clock with the game. So all of us trying to get, I guess, a little break before football season starts. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Quick reminder that Who's Q and Brew in the Northridge Center off Highway 82 in Tuscaloosa now has takeout available through DoorDash. So call Who's Q and Brew, and they'll deliver that great barbecue right to your door. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be back on Monday morning with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com and Casey Smith on golf. The FedEx St. Jude Classic, both Nick Dunlap and Justin Thomas shot 3 under par yesterday. So they're in the mix there as we get into the second round today. All right, have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll talk to you again on Monday morning.
Thank you for listening